Honorable David Awika, Global President, Honorable Charles Drew, VP of PTA. Jọba Yorùbá. Water Development Association, PDA, was Honorable Harris Dennis, board member, Honorable Alfred Moore, board member, Honorable Joe M. Senior, co-chairman, board director, PDA. What do we, Mr. Director Walden Goba, President PDA, Liberia. I say, we're my own. Look for Biachuja. Don't know China, so I don't tell you your clay. What you do so? But she don't go. PRO, PDA Liberia. That is the way treasure Moruga pays. Kind of. So no problem. Who are you
Well, good evening, folks. There's a last and final segment in today's editions of the Liberia Public Radio informative news magazine, Freedom Watch. That song is a beautiful song there by the folks from the Port Bleed Development Association. This Friday, gone Friday, the board chairperson, according to our understanding, passed near Philadelphia, that is in Allentown. And this one is a special song that his name is mentioned in that song, and we received this through the president of the association, Mr. Dave Jawle Kampao. He's based in California, San Diego, in California. And by the way, the late Dennis too is the brother of the sitting president of the Bars and District Associations in America, President J.J. Dennis, based in Philadelphia. And that's but DK Nyambit from the southeastern side of Liberia. You know, since this war, the tone, the sinkings of folks from Grandview has changed significantly. I remember prior to the war, ever since this how, but since then they are elevated, they are modified, they are sinking. So it is not usually hard. But our prayers and thought goes out to the people of the Poor Blita that is in Bazan district, and especially the Port Anti Development Association base here. There are a lot of good friends that we have, and to see it, a young man who is giving back to the community to fall to the cold hands of death is painful. So the president, President Jawli Khan, is extending his condolences to the people of Poor Blita district. Our understanding that he will be at the funeral, and as news becomes available, so we will always made it known right here on this network. It's part of our community commitment. So let's see here. We're going to get it going right now. Today, as usual, we're going to be having our special guest. Mr. Dennis Jah is the CEO of another major news network focused on Liberia. He's based in Atlanta, Georgia. He will be joining us in a little bit, and we're going to have a conversation. So let's take this quick commercial, and we'll be right back.
Let me see the hands of the warrior in this house. Put your hands together for the Lord, and let your enemy breathe the light. Like the devil know we have a mighty God and a consuming fire. My guys, my warrior, I'm the leader. Oh, my guys, my warrior, I'm the hero.
We want to welcome you to our guest who's standing by backstage. I believe he is on spin run. Now the coin is going to flip around here this event. He's in the business of punching high questions, but we're going to flip the coin here. What it looks like when you're pinning people down with the questions. As usual, our senior contributor, Professor Asese Labozalo, is also here.
One way, they shall gather. 7 ways, they shall scatter. My enemy will fall on my feet. That's right. My God has never been higher. My God is my warrior, I'm a leader. Oh, my God is my warrior, I'm a hero.
Who is Dennis Jah calling? Was that during the ULAT elections, or who is he getting in touch with some of his guests? Okay, we want to get this program right away here. All right, that's Minister Ibrahim Tape, a young Liberian gospel artist. He's involved in a project in Liberia to build a ministry children to accommodate folks. So we will be having here as well. But let me just bring in Professor Zawlo here first, and we're going to set the stage, and then to bring in our guest, I believe is already standing by to join this conversation here. Let me go near the capital of Washington, D.C., where Professor Asese Labozalo is the founder of Gideon Polytechnic School in Liberia, running my mother two schools in Liberia and giving back significantly to the work of the community is here as usual. Professor Tai, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. So. Thanks for having me on again.
Okay, so we're going to flip the coins around here. This event, just bear with the professor going to be around here before I bring in Mr. Jah. I know the name Dennis Jah is not strange within the ULAT belt. He's been around. He's an author. He's an advocate, but I will wait until he can establish his full identity. What I do not know about him his political attachment. So hopefully we will know if that exists on planet Earth. Hey, what little bit you know of Dennis Jah?
Dennis Jah is a wonderful young man, a man, a patriot, a man who loves his country very well. He talks and he does the work commensurate with the speech he provides. So, I have a lot of tremendous respect for Dennis, and he and I have worked on a couple of projects together, and so I have a lot of respect for him. Yeah, he's. I think you cannot write a history of Liberian diaspora without the name of Dennis Jah. So that's who he is.
Yeah, I was privileged when I served as one of the chair members of the election commission, which I participated. I was my first time really coming in with his close proximity to his argument. But this syndromes of Liberians always putting people who they think they know or they associated with or whatever to relationship. It's not only in Liberia, it's here. Even though I was a commissioner, now I'm no longer there. I can also say that I had a hope that he would maybe be given that real thought. That did not happen, including yourself. Why are we adopting this sort of I don't know. Is that your DNA or what?
No, I don't know. We have to be very careful when we say that Liberians are voting on the basis of who they know.
Professor, I'm not going politics water here. I'm not talking about whatever decision that was made in 2017 in Liberia. That's not what I'm doing. I'll try to bring it right home from here within the community setting.
Yeah, but here's what I would say to you, and I've had this before. I won several elections in Eula. I won several elections. I won the election to become the regional vice president for the East. I won an election to become the Secretary General, first term, second term, Secretary, two-term Secretary General. I think I served. Yeah, right. So here's what I say. And the same voters who voted for me those times were the very same voters who rejected me when I ran to be president. I don't think it has to do with who know you. I think it has to do with preference at that moment. And not being elected doesn't necessarily mean that you are not the best candidate. Maybe there was something the voters saw in the other person, and they prefer that person. But I can't commend the voters for voting for me 3 times and then criticize them for voting against me 1 time. And so I think it would be wrong, to make that kind of, determination. I wish I would have, in hindsight, I look back and say, look, Eula would have been different had I been elected. Eula would have been different had Dennis Jah been elected. And there are many other people, who I think had they been elected, Eula would have been a totally different institution. But I respect the voters of Eula and I respect their will. And I have nothing but, law for the institution and those who gather every 2 years to vote.
Okay. It's 8:12 Eastern Standard Time right here from the New England Bureau of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR TV. Happening now. Well, we are about to turn the wheel of the media industry to right now from the New England Bureau to the focus on Liberia, home base in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, I will be playing home guest with a writer, an author, an advocate, but I'll wait until he establishes his own identity, Mr. Dennis Jah. It's difficult when you sit in your own car. You can drive any kind of way, you're in charge. But when you get out of your comfort zone, that's a different ballgame. Let me bring in my special guest standing by, Dennis Jah. Okay, there he is, Mr. Dennis Jah.
Yes, sir.
It's good to have you here. It's better late than never, but here we are. Mr. Jah, good evening.
Hello. Can you hear me very well?
Loud and clear.
All right, it's my pleasure being here. I'm doing some adjustment here.
Okay.
Make sure that I'm not looking down. I'm able to but I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
From what I see on my screen, it looks perfect.
All right.
Okay. Okay, well, it's little 8:14 right now, so let's get the ball to rolling. First and foremost, thank you for accepting our invitation to be on this network. I think this is a sort of partnership we should run out here and there, and let's see how it looks like. So, how was your Sunday so far?
Well, so far so good. I just also concluded my show on Focus on Liberia. We're discussing land ownership in Liberia, and right after we got through that, and I had this obligation, so glad I'm here. Thanks so much for inviting me. LPR, the Liberia Public Radio, has been very old hand in the business. We met you doing this, and I watch also Mr. Samse Bito, the conversation. And so I'm happy to be on LPR for, I think, the second or third time. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for keeping the fire here burning.
Okay, don't measure the liberal progressive here before the conversation turned away other here. Something to is well, unfortunately we are on the same network, but we don't. There are a lot of things we don't have in common. So something he's too liberal, and his liberalism he has caused a lot of damage out there in terms of where he goes. But I'm not going to make that of a conversation. I know he hearing me. Oh my goodness, this guy is here. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Are you the total man?
How you doing? Good evening, Mr. Soul.
I was just praising the people how wonderful you are when you're having your program, you're engineer. You always try to get things doing, and we are putting the CBC-led government or Professor Taizawa about the year to call you. Do you believe that? I'm talking next about you here this evening.
Yes, I believe it. I believe it. Of course, you know, behind closed door, you tend to want to send me back to total immediately, but I believe you.
Okay, all right. We will start on the home front. Our guest is here, Mr. Ja. Okay, Dennis, let me get him up here side by side. I don't want to put him by this level here. Let me put him right there.
Good evening to you, Mr. Ja, and the professor. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Toll. Good evening, Mr. Giles, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Toll, good evening. The man from Town and my colleague, Professor Zawlo. Good to see you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to get you backstage. In the meantime, let me go head to head in a little bit with Ja instead of just skipping you to, and then I'm going to bring you back. Here in a good context here. So let's see here. Let me see here. Ja, here we are. Let's just have it narrowed down here to two of us here in the meanwhile, and then later on our guest going to come in. Set the stage here. Who is Dennis Ja?
Well, I'm a Liberian, just like most of your audience. You're a Liberian refugee before coming here to the United States, where I've been with my family since the year 2000. You know, when you first come and you hear people say, "Oh, I've been to the States 20 years," you say, "What? 20 years?" Only to realize that within no time, you yourself have been here 20 years. And since I've been here, we managed to kind of go to school and do our little, as we call in Liberia, 1-2-1-2. And also, currently, as you may know, we run the Focus on Liberia that we have co-founded. And we're just in the business of doing what everybody else is doing, that is trying to make ends meet, raising a family, trying to juggle between doing something has extracurricular activity like what we're doing now, family, and also work. And our ears, our eyes are always in tune to Liberia, making sure that our people are taken care of, that we have left Liberia, but Liberia is still in us. We continue to eat palm butter and fufu, make sure that we have color somewhere there, and listen to our own country music, and just making sure also that
still attached with the culture of your country, not letting it go because you are in the States.
Definitely. And sometimes it's ironic that those of us that are in the United States, sometimes we are even more in tune with the culture than people in Liberia, because
Absolutely.
sometimes scarcity makes things make you to appreciate something a little bit more. So
No.
yes, that's what I do here, just working like everybody else and trying to make our contribution to back to our homeland.
Mhm. Okay, let's do a little bit backtracking here. You come here, you graduated from the Morovia College, right there on Ken Johnson Road, correct?
That is correct. Morovia College, and truth and honor always foremost. Morovia College, lawyer we shall ever be. I graduated from Morovia College, 1988, if that is not revealing too much, and then went to the University of Liberia, but did not. I mean, the rest is history. We were just going back and forth. So by the time the war came, I was already there. From Morovia, from that, the war came, and we were forced into exile. And I'd like to mention this because into exile, I sought refuge in Guinea, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and then Ghana before
You're
coming
kidding
here
me.
in the United States.
I thought I was the only one that is almost like a roving ambassador type, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and here, not knowing I have people who also get a long laundry list of being
Yeah.
into
What was happening there was every time there is a little cessation of hostilities in Monrovia, we were like, oh, we got to go back and go to school. So every time we went to Monrovia, war started and we had to, but God being very wonderful, we always had a way to escape. And so every time there was a renewed hostility, we say, well, we can't stay around the border anymore because we were always being, encouraged to go back because you're right there. So went to Ivory Coast, from there went to Nigeria. Nigeria was tough, man. So we have to come to Ghana, where life was a little bit easier.
And naturally, being in exile, I remember I was at a port, and then now Senator Prince Johnson say, I stay in exile for a number of years. Living in exile is not a good idea. You guys will not go out like, no, this is not what I want to be. But that's not what we want to dwell on here. You've been seeing the phrase, you've been involved in this community initiative. From all indications, have this one of the co-founders of FC Juveniles, Honor 14 Soccer Squad. I mean, you not play football before?
Oh, boy, I'm a striker.
Where retired striker?
I'm a striker, and what I did, and I in 1989 we started in Bannersville, started the FC Juveniles. That was Honor 14, but it started as a coach. And then we're later on with my siblings.
I hope you're not a Samson Tour type of coach. I never saw. The guy brought one picture and said he was in Johnstown, Ohio. You can't even recognize who is he, but he said he was a coach. I'm waiting to see that video surface.
No, I'm a very good number 7 because and I think in Bannersville I revolutionized number 7. And the only time I saw people play number 7 like that was during the time of who was it? Roberto. And people like Roberto Carlos, and then Turan playing number 2, number 3. So that's how I play the 7, because always what I try to do is I open the field. So when I send that volley, you gotta be strong. but I did.
You were blessed that you didn't encounter me because I'm a male feeder. Samson Tour knows the rest of the story. Believe me or not, a real skillful striker. Okay, so and you came to the States. And then what?
Right. Let me mention also about that FC Juveniles because it's important because, I myself was a teenager by then. My oldest brother was in his early 20s and we started this team. But what it did for the children, some of them now are grown and they sometimes meet me and say, oh, coach, you don't know what you did for us, right? So we're more than coaches. We're also mentors. We were helping them with their study class. We were talking to them about life and just growing together. So it's very important. It really helps young people. Young people today look up to people to talk to them and inspire them. And we did that because the kids tell us they're now grown. Some are married with children, and they continue to say that. So in the United States, came here, in Pennsylvania, went to the Buss Community College, graduated and went for, bachelor's and all the way to a graduate degree. And started to work. I've been working with my company now for a little over, what, 10, 11 years now. But before that, we had other places, just like everybody else coming
Yeah.
to the States. You start from the bottom and you've been able to work your way up to where you think you can earn something, for you and your family to survive in this kind of place. And I've also participated in community activities at while I was in Massachusetts. In the church, we had our church branch, that the community branch of the church called the Christ Jubilee Community Initiatives. So what that did was, even I'm still with the church. Pastor Jerry Mayoga, wonderful man. That's the pastor that I think I will work with for the rest of my life. Great man of God. And we had this community initiative where we work with people in the community, conduct computer training, literacy, immigration, and all these little things. We even won a grant where we were teaching depression screening, because our people don't like to talk about depression. So that was one of the biggest job that we did in the community. And from there, I've been active on the listserv newspaper, writing articles, going back and forth talking politics.
You're a blogger as well.
Yeah, I did that. I'm still. I mean, focus on Liberia. I've sucked a lot of energy out of me now, so my blog is a little bit still, but I'm very active in Liberian politics, talking, making big move. But it did not start. I did not start writing in newspaper here in the United States. It started back home. If you remember 1988, my first article that appeared in the Daily Observer newspaper was Stop Malawala Balawala on TV. I wrote that article saying the play or the show Malawala Balawala that everybody enjoyed was not teaching some moral, some good things in the community, and then they should stop it. That created a big
I'm not sure whether your idea was embraced or welcome.
No, it wasn't. People came from all over, and I have very few people that supported the ideas, and they saw some saw that.
What was the thinking then? What did you see that wasn't really good, and you were calling for that? Let's just a little bit of that.
Yes, so the Malawala Balawala was everybody enjoyed it, and you see that Game was married to this to Gonda, and Game was engaged in extramarital activity with this old man, and then when Kamensoko was this old man. Oh, that's my okay. Thank you.
Madam. Yeah, thank you. When you get people like this, so right now, so you will be energized to flow because it's working. Let me just get it off the stream before distraction.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I thought the show was teaching. It was not moral enough. So what it was practicing, people who embrace that it was okay to engage in extramarital activities because it was fun. And everybody was going to say, well, this is not teaching some good morals to the young people. And I was in a 12th grade student at that time. And that led me into trouble. You not believe. When we went to, I was also captain of Monrovia College, Meet the Challenge team at that time. So we're doing our recording at ELTV. And we went, and the star of the show, Mr. Kekura Kamara, who was playing Balawala, wanted to have a debate because he was very offended that I was criticizing his show. And so we're going back and forth with that. In fact, he said he wanted a debate on national televisions, but his colleagues advised him and said, well, this Peking got nothing to lose if you go debate with him.
He would fear no for. He was
right.
So the eye of the media, so
Right. So the military people saw that who were mining the checkpoint at the ELBC, and they stopped me when when we're on our way out, and they said, well, this is how you can stop politics. Why are you writing and all that? I mean, yeah. They put me under a lot of pressure that I had to denounce and recant my article in their presence. Wow. I mean, we were there for over an hour. I mean, interrogating me, or harassing me, and doing all kinds of things to a teenager. Shame on them. But I got out of that. I promised them that I was sorry, and so they were able to release me to go home with my friends who were also members of the Meet the Challenge team, including former Deputy Finance Minister Sebastian Moore. So that was that history.
You're knowing what you know now to get that situation for doing that article?
No, I mean I still stand by, and that's the thing, that I still agreed, and at a time that here's what I believe was not a good moral teaching for the people, for the children at our age, and everybody was embracing it. I felt that that was not the way to go, and I still stand by that.
Wow. Okay. Everybody get their story. Okay, Ty, the Youth of Liberian Association, Ty, you came, you active, you played an active role. I remember, was that a Philadelphia convention or one of these?
Yeah,
Yeah,
2015, I think.
yeah, I was still on the commission, like just what I was telling the professor, and but it didn't turn out to be what you anticipated. Ben, are you still actively involved with EULA?
Not really, not really. But I still kind of talk to people, but because EULA is a collection of these local communities, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So when the local community or your local association is not really active, or you are not really active in it, then that too affect, because we're not direct members of EULA, right? It's the communities, the state organization that are member of EULA. But the 20, EULA, started very long, got a very good history. But it came a time that people were just passing leadership to the other. So I coined that the dress right dress system, right? Where Mr. So is the president. Before he leaves, he passes it over to his vice president. His vice president passes to the next person, to the next person.
That sort of vicious cycle. If you keep
Exactly.
the same-
And really they were not, doing what they're supposed to do. EULA, some people believe, has lost its essence and it needed to be retooled.
Do you believe in that?
Excuse me?
Do you believe EULA lost its essence? Like you said,
Yeah,
what people say?
if EULA keeps on the same trajectory, then it's not really doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? Because at the time EULA was started, everybody was acting as one. The thing there was advocacy. The people, the government in Liberia is doing bad. And we have to do this to conscientize our people. Okay, things have changed and we have moved through. So if you are not going to adapt to the new challenges, then you are becoming obsolete. But it doesn't mean that you can throw the baby away with the bathwater. You
No.
just need to make some changes so as to make EULA still relevant to today's realities. Unfortunately, we don't have the kind of leaders that's supposed to be doing that. So we set out on a path to change that, but we're not successful. When I ran as a Secretary General, we were defeated. And the way it works is you just need to take delegates to the convention.
Yeah.
So if you can manage to just pick people from the street, if you can pay their way convention fees, you're going to win the election. So we're unsuccessful. We tried the following election cycle. That time now I was a campaign manager for my team, and we're still defeated. Not that, people recognize we were the better side, but the politics at that time did not favor us.
Yeah. All right. Let me see it. I'm not sure why I'm getting echo here. Let me just take a break. Not actually a break. Let me see. Mr. Toll, just keep me posted. Let me play something here because you are being in the vanguard. I'm hoping that it's okay. I know I'm still getting some echo there. Let me work on that while I play this and see here.
We saw you on the video talking about the case, but before we go into all that, just tell our students, viewers a little bit about Chief Diallo. I know you were here, now you're here like this. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, and thanks for having me go after Brother Sia, because Patient has an impressive resume over there. So, I wouldn't have wanted to have gone immediately after. But as you rightfully said, look, I was in the state. I'm now home, like, bro. I'm licensed.
practiced in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and DC. I practiced there for about 9 years before returning home. I'm also licensed to practice here in Liberia. I have done some civil work and also criminal. So that's the brief background about me.
Okay, that's the brief background there about me. That's Denija. So focus on Liberia. Mr. Ja, before we dwell into that, that was a very critical issue, I guess, on that program here. Tell me a little bit here how this transition, how this idea came about, why and how you came up with this focus on Liberia. What was the purpose of that?
Right. And before focus on Liberia, because we were talking earlier, I've been involved in writing on the internet, listserv, criticizing, and all that, right? So it was nothing new, except that the tools that were available at that time were not available prior. Okay, I have toyed with some ideas. And so at a time that we were the leaders of the community here, LAMA, that's the Liberian Association in Metropolitan Atlanta, we had some a program. So Lama had a program that I was in charge of called Lama Live, where we talk about the community, the things, and we're doing that on a TV station like this one, or TV International, with a colleague in the community. So when we left the leadership, this was in 2016 going to 2017. When we left, we decided that continue, because while at Lama, I put something together that was going to educate people, because I've been criticizing, and when we were criticizing, involved in all the politics, it looked like people really did not understand, right? People will get at you because you are criticizing someone they support or someone they love, or people were not looking at issues more broadly, and you see that has been exacerbated today. Today is more pronounced than before.
Do you put forward, not to interrupt you, in your criticism, do you put forward recommendations, solutions, or you just talk about it and walk away?
Yeah, we put forward solutions. But sometimes people always say that, oh, you are criticizing, what's the solution? Sometimes you don't even have to put on solution. The fact that you are telling someone or what you are doing is not the right way, sometimes the people even know, because if somebody is corrupt, right? If somebody is stealing what belongs to the two of you, and you say, oh, my man, stop stealing. I mean, what solution you want me to put forward? Yeah, but most of these things are even documented on my blog. If you go to dennisja.blogspot.com, you see that, we criticize. So as I was saying, you say these things and people look at you funny, right? So, and I used to be very critical of President Sirleaf. So people were saying, yeah, I used to be very critical. In fact, because, we are very apt to just look at people and admire them, maybe for any reason. We don't tend to dig a little deeper. So when we were doing this criticism, and people look at you, that you sound funny. So what I really decided,
you may be trying to capture for the administration to capture your attention. This guy is going about speed limit. We need to get him much closer.
Yeah, sometimes that's what they think. And if not, they just look at you that, oh, this man is just a noise maker. And actually, it is not even on the part of those in authority, those in power. It's merely from your peers, from people that are facing the same abuses, people that have been stolen from. I mean, it's like the few that as long as they can benefit, it's fine for them. So when you are arguing or when you are saying something on their behalf, they find that very funny. And so 2 years for the Sirleaf presidency to be over, the way I describe it to people, I say it's like you are teaching calculus to 6th graders. So what I intended to do
something that is not possible, right?
Yeah. So what you need to do is to bring people along. And so I would like to teach instead, and I like to more education, because if people are not educated to something and you alone saying it, nobody's going to listen to you. So we decided to say, well, we're going to do more education. So focus on Liberia. So, and I saw a lot of programs. That time there were very few, like LPR, like Gibson Jeru, and just regular Facebook Live, and people were just arguing. And I felt that just arguing and talking about the issue was not enough, but we created a space where we merely educate. You bring people together, don't take side, so that we'll be able to hear from both sides. So Focus on Liberia was born out of the need to educate and to even present Liberia as something more than what we know it to be. Like if you say Liberia, the first thing that comes to people's mind will be, the Civil War, 2, the free slaves, 3, female president.
So you're providing other options.
Right, Liberia is more than that.
Context.
Yeah, Liberia is more than that. So we wanted to say Liberia has educated people just like any other nation. We have issues just like any other people. I heard someone soon, when the war was over, sometimes they talk to you, oh, you are from Liberia. Oh, okay, you guys have a president, there's peace, so everything is okay. I said, no, everything is not okay. Liberians, like every other people, talk about healthcare, unemployment, inflation. So our issues should not just be buckled up to something like, oh, so long you have peace, everything is fine. So the goal for FOL was to excavate these things, to bring all this discussion. We have different aspects of our society. Why are we just talking politics? Why are we just talking war? Why can't we talk music? Why can't we talk agriculture? Why can't we talk other different things, education, healthcare, employment? Why can't we talk about that? The art, our villages, the stories that I learned. So FOL decided to say, let's be able, and then actually provide a platform that we are not fighting everybody, but we want to serve as that middle ground to say, well, whether you are from this party or that party, we can come here and talk.
Yeah, and people don't understand. I don't know where they come from here for easy. Samson Tour was in here. He came, my Echo Star coming through, and then he's sending me message. This guy, this Total guy, is a pain in the neck. Okay, let's see here. So you started and I focused on Liberia, and you've been hosting a lot of high profile, a lot of critical issues being talked about. What is the feedback so far from your audience and ordinary Liberians in terms of your involvement?
Yeah, ordinary Liberians and people that we interview, and the feedback we're getting is very positive, and that's continuing to give us the urge to move on, because what we're doing is different. It's not we are doing interviews, we are doing shows that that not for entertainment, but mainly for education. That's our core, because you see, it's very important to determine what is important for you. What is your core? What is it that if everything fails that you can hold on to? For FOL, that's education. And so people value that. And they call and say, well, what you are doing is please continue, don't give up. Because we have competition. You have the entertainers. We have the fries and the G's that compete. And so sometimes you see a very high number and you may not get that number, doing something educational, right? And they call and say, don't give up. We are watching. And we can see the result, like from YouTube. People go there and watch the show. There are people that we hosted someone 2 years ago, right? On the history and culture of the Loma ethnic group. And this is just an example. And since we did that show on the Loma ethnic group, that's with Dr. Malakba, he said every month or every other month, he continued to get calls. He's conducting either Loma classes. Some will call and say, I just want to know the villages, the towns in Lofa County. That's all I want. Okay. So every time he's conducting those classes, we have, like, for example, Dr. Saki Golafale doing chemistry and you. They're looking up his students of all races. They see his show on Focus on Liberia and say, I pick you because I watch you on a TV program, Focus on Liberia, and you were talking about the practical use of chemistry, and that's why I'm picking this course. So that's the kind of feedback we're getting. Policy makers, don't mind them. They are watching and they are taking notes. And so that's keep giving us the drive to continue what we're doing. So the feedback is positive.
I will soon be bringing my analysts for us to have this joint table or cycle type conversation here. But I won't let it go without getting this. And I know we too, we have been labeled. And I got a key word that you use is not for entertainment. Unfortunately, Liberians yet to distinguish between the people entertaining, educating, informing, putting all on the table to give everybody the fair share of that sort of point of argument. I'm not sure whether it's a conspiracy or why it is. Focus on Liberia, as other people, even the LPR, or type people have accused it. But let me give you this opportunity. Some see focus on Liberia as expansions of the voice of the GOL. That's the government of the Republic of Liberia. Have you heard that?
I've heard many things, and that is one of them. I've heard those that are in the opposition say focus on Liberia is government station. I've heard those in the government say focus on Liberia is opposition platform. So I've heard all that. It's depending on who you talk to. Because we bring guests, if the guest is from the government and I'm pushing the guest, they say, oh man, the opposition guy.
Opposition man.
If the person is from the opposition, you are pushing them, they say, oh, that's government guy. So I've heard all of that. But it's important to know that nobody likes to be ignorant, right? Nobody likes to come and say, oh, I don't know. Then it makes you, for some people, it makes them look stupid. So if you say, I don't know Alfonso Zian, people don't trust you. So you have to find something. So nobody wants to be ignorant. So if you don't know the side Dennis just stands on, for example, you're going to place him somewhere because you want to be.
Where do you stand? Let me ask you now, where do you stand?
On what?
How? Do you have political affiliations in as much you are to one of the founders of Focus on Liberia? Are you having any ties with political parties in Liberia?
No, never. The only party I came close to joining in 1992 was the Liberian People's Party. Okay, that was in 1992. That was just before Octopus, because as a child, my siblings that were in the university, so I was in first or maybe second, third grade when I was wearing soup T-shirt. So we grew up with this idea of the progressive. Imagine, I was born in the 70s, right? So that's what we grew, and definitely I could memorize Dr. Sawyer speeches. My brother loved him. I love him, and then we will, and even his 1983 oration. I could memorize those speeches. So the only party I came close to joining was the Liberian People's Party, and that was, but I never officially, took a card. That was in 1992, and since then.
Do you believe in the ideology of the progressive? Because when I hear about progressive, then somebody is boiling, or somebody is being elevated backstage of being because the name progressive is synonymous to their behavior. I'm talking about own liberal progressive something. Do you believe in the ideas of the liberals or the progressive in Liberia? Are they deliver, you think?
No, it's not about even delivering, but the ideas of progressivism. I mean, who would not believe that? Who will want things to be stagnant? So yes, there are ideas of progressivism or progressive. Yes, I believe that. And the people we know today has progressive in Liberia. I respect their work. I think that they have done extremely well. What I think the war of the Civil War really gave them a bad rap. Because you see, when information is not forthcoming, people fill that space, right? So when the war started, the issue was the book People Spoil Liberia. If you go on my blog, I have an article there called Pocatius Ground. Pocatius was a guy who can't speak English, but I don't know where he got that word from. Because there was this idea that people that were educated spoiled the country. And just imagine, Mr. Charles Taylor came with war, right? So you think he's going to, and there was this idea, concept of, you erase what is there so that you can fill the place with your idea. So the common knowledge that the progressive spoiled Liberia In fact, the killing, the overthrow of 1980 was the root of all evil and all these kind of things. And they got a very bad rap, and since then, they have not recovered. But I think they did extremely well. There's nothing wrong going against government. There's nothing wrong criticizing the president. There's nothing wrong. And people are doing it now. You criticize the president today, but people who criticize the president 40 years ago, you have problem with that. Ironic.
So, okay, let me bring the guys so they will form part of this conversation. Sure. I'm Alfonso Zain Sot of the Liberia Public Radio, LPR TV. We are privileged to have with us here today an author, an advocate, a community leader, Mr. Dennis Jai, one of the founders of Focus on Liberia, an online news network. We are coming, and I'm breaking the liberal and Professor Asese Labos Zaulo. Stay tuned. Okay, happening now. That means breaking here. The Liberal Progressive Samson Blackpool Brown Tour is in Sacramento, Studio B of the Liberia Public Radio near the capital of Washington, D.C. is Professor Asese Labos Zaulo, who is also founder and head of a Polytechnic school in Liberia, 2 schools, I believe, or more, running in Liberia. Thank you for your community engagement. And in your own city is Amos George, our senior analyst and a contributor here at the Liberia Public Radio. Gentlemen, the dinner is set. I'm not sure whether salad is part of that dinner, but I'm going to do it like the Real Crown Man with palm butter. Samson told us palm butter. So, okay, guys, you listen to Mr. Jaja is a politician. He has followed the politics of Liberia, so we're going to discuss a lot of issues. Let me open the corridor here quick. The GOL, that's the government of Liberia, and the opposition, Mr. Jaja. You have talked to both parties on your network, correct? High profile. I'm not sure whether the opposition, their leaders, whether they have appeared, but I know you have talked to some of those people, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Some of them, some have appeared, but a lot of the opposition leaders have not been able to appear for some reason or the other. We don't know.
Oh, really? When you call them too, they don't come?
No, we've called a lot of them, and we've not been. Maybe there's schedule conflict, but we've tried, and still we don't get a lot of them.
Oh, okay. So let's see here. So, gentlemen, Professor, the Liberal Progressive, Pa George, welcome to the talking point. You listen to Mr. Jat, and let us all form part of this conversation here. So, Mr. Jat, the politics of Liberia is getting deeper, divisive, polarized, and all of that. We have 11 political, more than 11 parties as a rainbow, 4 collaboration, the rulings, establishment, and all of that. As far as you are concerned, from your talking point and on your outlet, do you see alternative? Do you see an alternative? Is the opposition, are they being positioned as a right alternative for the country, you think?
I don't really like to look at it that way, because that is not the core of our problem, whether it's opposition versus position or ruling party, right? What we've done consistently is in Liberia is to look for a savior, but so every time we have one person,
savior, what could be the definitions of
because we're looking for someone who's going to deliver us, right? So we are always looking for a leader. Oh, who? And sometimes those in authority, those in power now will say, oh, besides this person, who? I think the fundamental issue we need to be looking at is the what and not the who. What is it that we want? What is it that is lacking? What is it that needs to be changed for us to have the Liberia that we want instead of the who? Because the who can die. But the what will remain the same. We have not actually been able to do a simple analysis to diagnose what the problem is. I'll give you an example of Mr. So. Right now, everybody is talking about corruption, right? let's just do a simple, root cause analysis. Why do you think people are corrupt? If you answer that question, then you go to the next why you think that is. Then why? Let's say you do 5 whys and then that takes you to the root cause. Then we can find a solution to that root cause instead of finding a solution to the symptom. So the whole idea of opposition versus, we've gone through that thing over and over, and we're still at the same place where we started. So I want us to dwell on the what, then the who.
And that's most often that's the question the both parties try to avoid. Let me bring in Professor Zablo. Yeah, I believe he wants to. Professor.
Yeah, Dennis. Thank you. Listening, the first thing that struck me was when you talk about revolutionizing the number 7 position. It was very interesting to me. Today I was thinking, I was watching the Manchester game against the game with the 2 Manchester City and United, and I was also thinking of myself as being a natural number 9.
Okay.
And then try to consider, how the number 9 position was considered in Liberia and how it was considered in Europe. And then I said, wow, I was one of those natural number 9. Whose goal was just, whose job was just goals. And that's what I think.
And the last team I played for, Black Devils in Bannersville, at the time the team, collapsed or was no more, I was the highest scorer.
Yeah.
Because I had that natural way of just swinging the ball, man. And if you're not careful, that's goal. Because my, small in size, so my ultimate goal was just go for the goal.
Yeah. So you see, it's good our past scores. Yeah, I was just a natural goal scorer. I was somebody who played within the 6-yard box most of the time. Call it charging the goalie. And just when he dropped that ball, it was a goal. But anyway, coming to the more serious thing, Dennis, I hear you talk about focusing on the what.
Yeah.
You kind of liken it to be unique to Liberia. Like as if that mindset of focusing on the who and later the what is unique to Liberia. And I have a different perspective on that. My thought is that's how people all across the world. Everywhere they're looking for savior. In the United States elections we just witnessed, I think the focus here was looking for a savior that Biden would have delivered or Trump would have delivered the country. I don't know if they were focusing on the, the what. I think we're focusing on the who.
No, I don't see it that way. There are always issues that the people talk about here in the United States, right? Right now is the minimum wage. And say, oh no, the minimum wage, it shouldn't be this way. So even by virtue of you voting for a Republican, you know what's coming. By voting for a Democrat, you know what's coming because their policies or what they believe in is defined. Unlike Liberia, where everything is dependent on the leader. So that's why we think, okay, this person is able to do it. This other person. So I think the who and the what is other areas focus on the who, but because of their system, because they have some institutions that are working, it may be implied that when you vote a Democrat, you know what all comes along, and vice versa.
That's what I think is similar. And then what you are espousing, you're talking about fundamental change to the way we discuss and act in our political space. What do you think we need to do if we want to move in the direction you are talking about? How do we get there? How do we start? Where do we begin?
And that's why we need to talk about the what, because the what is going to produce the who, right? Because if we let's give an example now with the newest political party in Liberia. Okay, all that we see there is an individual who says, "I'm able to deliver. I'm able to save you." And I think he even mentioned that in his speech that even though I was doing this in America, but I saw that I'm able to come and deliver my people. Okay, so if we don't talk about the what, because what needs to change, and then we can find who's able to do it or who naturally fits that profile. And that starts with all of us. What is it right now, as I'm speaking to you, that we prioritize? Earlier, we're talking about the entertainers that have the greatest view, and they would talk to you that hey, this show all they do is about the numbers. So people gravitate towards those who are making the noise. Nobody is caring about the actual issue. And if we don't, so Liberia has a people now. We're not focusing on what is it that we need to move our country forward. Because if that is our focus, we're going to find the people. If that is our focus, if we can actually discuss that, what is important to us? What is it that we need?
But that's okay. I hear you, and I don't want to monopolize. But my question to you: how do we change that?
To change that is what we are doing now. Because if the people that are making this decision to elect the leaders, if they don't know what the issues are, if they don't know what is important to them, it will be very difficult. Yesterday, we're doing a show. Right now, I think a week or two ago, carbon monoxide poisoning killed like 8 people, just like that. Okay, how can we avoid that happening? How can we avoid such things from reoccurring? Is it by changing the leader? Is it by doing what? So we have to study how to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. So I invited a chemist and someone who's being impacted to say, let's talk about what is this whole idea of carbon monoxide poisoning and how can we
avoid
change it? What can we do so that people would stop dying from carbon monoxide poisoning?
Or even people ever even believe in that.
Excuse me?
I'll say, and to even add to it, even if you're talking what they would believe and to what extent we are willing to have this sort of conversation that for them to know that it actually exists.
Right. So if you don't get people to believe that and change the way they do things, what else can we do? So it's still left with us educating the people getting up, and doing the hard work, because it calls for people actually getting in the community and talking to people. That's hard. So what we do, we don't want to do that. And we say anything you want to say about the progressives. I was all the way behind God back in Sino County. When people used to get, during their vacation time, they go all over the country to sell their message. We don't do that anymore. Nobody is one-on-one talking to anybody. We expect these things to just happen in a vacuum. Or you can just get on a radio and all of a sudden everybody listens to you. No, it takes a little more work, and that's not what we're willing to do. Right now, Focus on Liberia does not have all the audience. We don't net 1,000, 2,000 because we decide to take the high road. That is, we want to educate people. We want to talk the fast. We don't want to be biased. And it's hard to do. So it's very much likely to say, everybody's doing it. Let me do bombshell and breaking news and G's and fries. That's the role that everybody is taking. So we must be able to work a little harder to make these things to happen. And that comes through education.
So I beg if I could come. The liberal, I beg you, just come with one other point. So, but Dennis, and I saw one of the guests, one of our viewers just posted education. And I hear you, we echo that. My thought, this is one reason why I'm involved with education in Liberia. This can identify the political direction, build patriotism and nationalism through the design of the education systems.
Agree.
Do you see that as one of the places we could start from? Say, for example, our curriculum can establish that people can die from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
Our curriculum can establish, say, for example, that you can get HIV from unprotected sex. Some of these hot-button issues, having those issues embedded in our educational, in our curriculum, having us redefine the philosophy of our education in our country. I see that as possible ways to address some of your concerns. Do you see it that way?
100%. Take, for instance, if you go to kindergarten, right? Here in America, they tell you to form line, to wait your turn, right? Get it? And I agree with you that these things should be embedded in our curriculum. Okay, just stay in line, wait your turn, take turns to do things. That goes a long way to what we do in a larger society. If you're a minister, do we wait our turn? We don't do that. If when we are educated, carbon monoxide poisoning, what a proper way of touching. We see a lot of rape and other things taking place. All these things can be taught in schools, can be taught in our churches and our mosques, but we don't do that. When I went to school in Liberia, first I was born. I like to even say it this way for you to feel the effect that I was born in a village behind the house on a plantain leaf, right? I have to go to school in the morning. I have to cross 4 creeks to get to school. The last creek, because all the mud on you, so on the last creek, that's where you wash your feet. But if you don't put lotion on, by the time you get to the school, the mud finish coming back on you. So you grow up in the village, all the trees, all the rivers, and everything that I knew in my little village. When I went to school, anytime they give example of carbohydrates, of protein, of all those things, they couldn't call any of the food that I ate. So what that does to me, or what that does to students, is students grow up, they are graduating from their villages. In our villages, we learn how to beat drum, we play all these things, but none of these things we see in the curriculum. So it means now, if I go to school now, I shouldn't even play the flute. I shouldn't beat drum. I shouldn't play the samba, because it's not education. So what our education does is to take us out of our communities and transform us to some Western people. Because when you say conifer tree, all the angiosperm, all these things we did, nobody gave an example of the peon, the tutue, and the sroe, and all these trees that are in my village. So how am I going to ever love my village when I'm educated? So our education teaches us not to love ourselves, not to love our localities. It doesn't make us to solve the problems that we are faced with. If we are faced with the problem of corruption, our curriculum should teach that. If we are faced with the problem of bad roads, let us produce engineers that can fix the roads. In my villages, people face these things and they enjoy them. I mean, the people will face a market bridge. But when it comes to the city, we don't put that into the curriculum. And so our curriculum does not teach us how to solve the everyday problem that we face.
The liberal.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. So, and thank you, Mr. Jad, and Mr. Josh, and Professor. Thank you, guys. I think this is a very interesting topic here. But I will, as usual, as the liberal progressive, I have to put some salt or sand in this little gari here this afternoon. The kumba here that is starting right now. Let me try to put some. The professor stated something here that I'm not going to monopolize the system tonight. That is not in your DNA as a suggestion. That's what you guys do. Never like things. So please spare us. But anyway, let's I just want to throw that in there. But look, on a very serious note, Mr. So, I think those of us that grew up with the progressive back home, and those of us that turned out to be what I consider a political junkie, not necessarily educated, because I am not an educated person. I'm just a layman. But those of us that read a little bit, you tend to miss that. Nowadays, especially after the war, and this is why if you watch most of my show back then, I usually come out and blame Madame Salif of not putting this particular after the Civil War. We had a great opportunity to whatever the progressive was crying for those days, whatever that is going on in the world in terms of the true democracy, we had a great opportunity to have those structure put in place, because Liberian was yearning for that. Young Liberians coming from the war, most of them were so confused. Now, if you were to bring in people, young other Liberians that have these kinds of mindset and say, let's build based on this common idea, I think we would have been successful. But what did they do? They decided to throw away the progressive ideas of those days, and they decided to go back into Tubman time and bring out building, instead of building institution, they decided to build individual. And this is what we have. So when Mr. Yah said the who and the what, Liberians don't ask for what, they ask for who. And this is what it is. Look at the political situation we have in Liberia right now. What do? They don't go to debate. They don't go to discuss issues. They discuss bathtub. They discuss cup of rice. They discuss bag of rice. What are you going to give me now? Instead of what is it that you can do for us for the future? It's like, what can you give me now? And so the politicians and those who are in leadership position, those who have the ability to interact with young Liberians, to interact with many Liberians, Michael, they're failing us. And so I just sit here and laugh because I know exactly what is happening, to be honest with you, because the idea of trying to now was successful in producing one man, one vote. And this was some of the bigger cries of the day. People like Oscar Quia, Bacchus Matthew, Dr. Tipote, one man, one vote. This is what they were calling for at the time. We have that now. That's fine. However, the progressive at the time were also saying, let's educate our brothers and sisters that have been left behind by this so-called political party, one-party system. We have two-party system. That way we ourselves will have competition, not necessarily creating enemies. That wasn't the point. It was the idea of having a political rival, but not enemy. You're producing ideas to compete against each other. Why is it that up to this time, Liberians going to vote and only thing they care about is what can I eat from this man that coming to run campaign? And Mr. Zaro, Professor Zaro right now, I'm hoping that he's thinking of the go run Michael. He's not going to go home and ask for a debate for him to for people to know how smart he is, what he can do. That's not what he's going to go for. He's going to go there, and then the people that he will meet on the ground will tell you that idea of having debate, try to put your idea forward for people to believe in it. It don't work here. You got to find something to start giving the children there money here and there. This is the corrupt system, and it's continue to be out there. Nobody is taking good care of it. And this is a sad situation, Mr. So.
Sad situation. You are also Pajoy.
Yes, sir.
You listen to Mr. Jai, you listen to the Liberal, who is also part of his problem because he's part of one of these political parties. I know you're going to start screaming here, but the fact is the fact we aim to all here. You listen to Mr. Jai here. Do you have any question for him?
Not really, but I have some comments to make. And let me say to my brother Dennis Jai, we're all from Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
From Lama.
Election Commission.
Where people got to fight.
Who is the Election Commission? Who? George?
Yeah, George is I don't know how many years he stayed on that Election Commission.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even know that.
Oh, Mr. George, why you didn't tell the people that you were there?
I mean, I'm just a plebeian in Atlanta. You know, we try to go to build our community, but you know, you and I were there. You know what we experienced.
Yeah.
People had to end up going to court. People fought in the hall. Yeah, Dennis there.
This is, I mean, like the history of Liberia is quite, it's amazing, man.
Yes. But however, look, you know, Mr. Toe, I never followed. I always had issue with progressive in Liberia.
Hey, trouble for them.
Dr. Sawyer, Dr. H. Bama from Mongolian, they were all pushing this message back on my freedom. Let me go to Sawyer. The interim government of Sawyer, 5 years. What did Sawyer do in that Monrovia? Oh, one policy on that island, that town.
What? Not to interrupt you, are we directing this here because I know you touched on it to our guests as well? Because I don't want this Liberal and you to open some sort of Pandora box here and keep our guests off the page here. You know, so let's see if we can direct that maybe to give his personal opinion.
Yeah, I'll go to Mr. John. So I didn't see nothing. Let me go back a little bit. The whole time, Famola became Minister of Education. There was a man who said, why people were driving cars with tinted windows at the time. He questioned people. But when he became minister, he rode the same car, tinted car. Right? The same message that he questioned, the question past government are doing. What was the policy at the time that the formula at the Ministry of Education in those days that he put in place that would have lifted majority of the people from the swamp? That the top 90 there, where they tired something, illustrating poverty, that they were with the people at the Ministry of Planning. What was the policy that he put in place to lift Liberia out of poverty? These are the questions I want the progressive to tell me. And when you question them at the time, the bigger excuse, they say we are not the president, or we're not in power. Malcolm Matthew, what they sold to the Liberian people at the time, they got revenue to $22. And if they came to power, they would make it $9. Just the other day, I went back, look at the article. These were things they sold to the Liberian people, knowing the reality on the ground, that things were changing. But they were what they sold to the people because they knew this was a hot button issue, rice in Liberia. And people bought it. That when Malcolm would come to power, the rest were going to go to Nanada and something. So I want to know from you people, this progressive idea, and these people were in government. Can you tell me something of the policy that they formulated to help Yabawolo from Swakoko? Can one of you explain to me?
So let me bring in Mr. Jai here. And again, he's going to be giving only his opinion. And it's good that we are having this sort of conversation here. And it is unfortunate the proliferations of the media outlet and the way Liberians found themselves driven into this sort of rare meat conversation that they are so enticed in. It has become a challenge to these outlets that tend to have an authentic and genuine conversation so as to find, and not just only to critique, but also put forward solutions or figure a way out. Mr. Jha.
Yes, sir.
So it's getting a little bit out here, but you did mention about the progressive, and Pa Joyce came in with a long, huge laundry list here. Are we getting anywhere? Have they, in your own view, have they done enough? And there were a lot of good points that you strike. Is the government, are they taking government to the people, or they wanted people to come to the government? And how can that be done? Right. And I see you saw this guy here, Mr. He means Davis, what he is saying, community education. In fact, is that policy is being put into place to keep the community aware, to engage the community, to make the community see part of the society or part of their own government? Is that happening enough?
Right, and Mr. Josh, thank you for what you also expressed, and that's my own Georgia Atlanta man. But anytime you say progressive, we say they. It's like, so I asked, I'm privileged to, interview some of the progressive and ask these same questions. And anytime you say they, it's like this whole concept of being of progressivism is like we have placed it on some other persons and not us. Okay? Progressive ideas are the same ideas that we are espousing today. So if somebody espoused those ideas 30, 40 years ago, and we are saying, oh, what did you do? It still boils down to the who instead of the what. Or what have we done together, to make that particular change to happen? For instance, and so when I interview Mr. Comley, Senator Comley, we said now and say, well, and even Anthony Kessel, he said, well, nobody is born with this progressive jacket that, you got to be progressive until you die. Okay, so things. But what Bycott Murphy said has been misquoted, according to what I've read, is he did not say, okay, when I come to power, rice will be this. The context was, okay, the PL 480, the Pusawa rice, they are giving it to us free. So even if you sell it at this amount, this is how much you're going to make. If you sell it at $9, this is how much you go. He was trying to draw those parallels. And I had an opportunity to interview Pazawi yesterday, who also, I didn't know, but he told us that he went to jail and is progressive, that the riots, 1979 riot was not about even rights. You know, things have festered underneath for so long. People have endured this level of subjugation for so long. And so anything can be the trigger point to cause people to bubble over. Okay, I think blaming progressive today, the people we know as progressive today, that they are responsible, is like you are saying, oh, why did you even criticize the government? I don't know which government in the world, in a democracy, that has never had opposition, that have never been criticized. So if the progressive or the politicians at that time found anything to use against the government, it worked. I mean, isn't that what politicians do? When the other people went against Tubman, he paraded them naked. Are we saying that Tubman was right to drive D12 away and D12 did not succeed? Are we saying CDB King was right to cheat in that election so that Faulkner, will lose? Is that what we're saying? When President Tubman, first of all, we have to put this in context. President Tubman completed the 4 years of President Tubman, and then he was going for his own 8 years. That will make it 12. And then he said he was not going to run, but you could see that he was grooming his son to run. So if politicians or opposition at that time found some loopholes to punch in there so that they would take power, politicians are trained to get power. And if they were doing all this to take power, I don't see anything wrong with that. Isn't that what today's politicians are doing? And if you made Bikers Mafia, all these people, I think if they told you that they were never in power, they were never in charge, I think they are right. Because there's just little you can do when you are a minister, especially under a military government. If you are Dr. Sawyer that controlled the enclave of Monrovia, being in government, that's why when Octopus came, it almost wiped everybody out. So I don't still see the reason why people are blaming the people we know today as progressive. I mean, they did what they
let me add.
Hold on.
Hold on. Let me add on that, Mr. Yeah. Hold on 1 minute.
Let's do it one at a time, guys.
Let's also remember, when the progressive, whoever you want to call them progressive, when they joined the PRC, remember the Constitution was under suspension. This was the government that was being run on an emergency power. So much. I mean, you can't put anything else into that. Number one. The second thing is, as Mr. Jai said, the rice riot. It wasn't something that was not even. It was not supposed to be. It was just something. Somebody, they had a group over there on South Beach, okay, for demonstration. I was there that very morning, Saturday morning. I was there when it started. So the idea of okay, let's do now Oscar, okay, about Deacon Collin at the initial stage. Pa had an office right behind PUA. I've always called PUA. I don't know
what doing there,
but I know the meaning. I don't
know.
Or whatever. The PUA right there. They have a Sony between Pa office and PUA. But anyway, they have a little place where people could stand. Deacon Collins stood there with a bullhorn to say this time around, trying to encourage the people to go back home. The police officer, the group of police officers and his people came in. They have, at that time, you have almost 200-300 people that were gathering around Park office at the time. They decided that they wanted the group to leave the sidewalk because the sidewalk was belonged to the government. So if they want to do anything, over 200 people should be packed into Park property, which is just a round porch, like maybe 25 by 35 the most. And because of them pushing the people in there, they decided to take off. And that's how it started. People jump off of Gelly Street over there, go on Rhino Street, go back on Broad Street, and the whole thing started. So it's not like the progressive was there to say we're going to go and demonstrate for rights and take. No, it wasn't like that. Now, one last thing. I have an audio here that I'm trying to put on the new system nowadays. The audio is from a cassette where Tuan Le and Bacchus Matthew are being interviewed. And Bacchus, the question was, all that you know now, sir, what do you think if you have known all of these things then? And Bacchus Matthew was very frank. He said, what I know now, if I had known that, I think our approach to the government would have been different. Because the way things are, it's not what we thought it would be. So even the progressive themselves recognize that governing is different than just staying at the bottom and trying to push issue. So this is nothing new.
But
So
that's
let us
the point I'm making.
brain. And quite frankly, just for me, just a day or so ago, another progressive who is still alive, Marcus Down. I just spoke with him, and every time that we talk, he and I talk, he's like a father to me anyway. But whenever he and I talk, there's lots and lots of information that are coming up. So, Mr. John, I will encourage you to see if you can get in touch with Mr. Dan. I will say not video, if you can get in touch with him, but to do an audio instead of a video, I think there will be you will get a lot of information. So we know these things. We're just trying to keep it cool.
You were doing that, so
this is what I said. Because Bacchus Matthew knew better. This is what they told the people, that governing was what was happening. It was not the reality. They knew all these things, and told people that have been suffering for over 100 some more years, telling them something that they knew it was not reality.
What was that?
What was not reality? What was not reality?
That like the way the government running, we all have problems. There was a problem with the system. That was actually true. But what they were seeing that they have this magic idea. When they get power, everything will just be bread and butter. And that's my problem because Mr. Professor.
Hold on, let me hold you there, because I don't think you're quoting anything. They say, quote me what progressives say when we get to power, everything will be bread. But they were only pointing out the flaws in the government. There was no election, so the top of government promised multi-party multipartyism. When he was pushed by his core group, he pulled that back.
No, he raised back the party registered.
Right, but what happened?
Okay. The party
they put forward the mayoral election. What happened when they were doing that? He pulled back. So
that was one
case to those people that were not open to change. So President Tabo was conflicted. He either this way he was neither hot nor cold, and that became a problem for him.
Look, let me come in there.
My point I'm trying to stress the progressive in terms of education, going to the people outside Monrovia. Did that happen?
Yes, Susuku.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in Dodweka and they reached to me.
Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, come in 1 second, Joy, before Professor come in yet. You say you be a beneficiary of the progressive. Tell us how.
You quoted me as a beneficiary?
No, you said Susuku. How are you saying Susuku reached out?
No, he was asking if the progressive went outside Monrovia. And I gave example of Susuku that was being run by the Tipote, and they were all the way in Grand Jide.
And you benefited from it. I mean, you kind of experienced it.
Right. I kind of experienced it. I mean, I was very little at that time to see the impact, but from what I read later on, yes, farmers were benefited. The whole concept of a Susuku, that's brilliant. People always trying to, I mean, I hope, and even the progressive regretted that there was a coup. I think what we saw was they were willing to work with the tribal government to ensure that rights of the people, and everything, prices and everything else fell in place. And then the coup came and disrupted that process, and which I think most people did not like. Most people regret that. Oh, we wish this could be a peaceful transfer of power instead of killing people to take power. But besides that, I don't see anything wrong with politicking if President Weah is in power today, what would the politicians say? Oh, President Weah is doing well, and I mean, you got to create a condition so that you be looked at as the one who will replace the man. That's why politicians. That's why they form political parties.
And then, as you know, you just said something before I come down to discussing the issue for the progressive. Even the Liberal progressive just alluded to it. He made a statement that I didn't expect him to make. Governance is quite different than what you see when you're in the opposition. So I think he understands how our government feels now.
Oh boy!
You got a partner now.
That's what you said. Did I misquote you?
Go ahead, Professor. Let's see what bottom up you stated. But go ahead.
Let me get back to this thing. Look, I'm a part of the progressive upbringing, and I tell you, I'm proud that I got associated with the progressive at a very tender age of say 11 and 10 years old. One of the guys who was my mentor, Tolo Kofa, he lived in the Minnesota area. And I owe a lot to him, James Squaw, and the rest of the other progressive who were on KRTD campus and getting us involved in agitating. Look, our country was established on flawed principles. Mm-hmm. Our country was not so far from what was practiced in apartheid South Africa. And the progressive, they changed the narrative in our country. Had it not been for our progressives, if it had not been for the progressives, maybe this conversation we're having here today would not have been had.
I don't know about that.
Maybe we have been had. I still remember in Liberia when access to the law school was restricted to certain people. Or you had to conform to certain behavior and standards to be admitted to the law school. I still remember in Liberia that a progressive resisted, in which you had to marry to certain individuals to even get a position in government and be treated differently. Mr. George, do you remember those Liberia? Do you remember that Liberia?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, okay, so good. So I don't think the progressive did anything wrong. They exposed the flaws of our society and beg Liberians to stand up, to change the course of our country, to build a more harmonious society where people are respected, irrespective of their tribe, ethnicity, or whatever. And so today, I think Liberia is better than what it was prior to the progressive coming in. I think it's better.
Professor, in which context Liberia is better? Is that a political context?
We have a multi-party democracy. We have a crime man representing Grand Jida, a global man in Maryland representing Maryland. We have a Dennis job who can go to Liberia and own a farmland in River G. And today, I can challenge others who will just come and throw a rock and take my people's land that don't belong to them. So progressive change our country. And this, you know, most of the time when I bring these discussions, I get threats from people. And I get allegations of being a bigot. So look, let's face it, the progressive change our country. And we should not be demoralizing them. We should not be demeaning them. They didn't do anything wrong. They saw it wrong and they exposed the wrong. They saw wrong and they exposed the wrong. And so we should be proud that today we have a functioning democracy because of the sacrifices of my late mentor, Bacchus Matthew, because of the sacrifices of Dr. Tukpa Natipote, Dr. Amos Sawyer, and the men of Wotapia, and the men who gave their lives to get us to where we are today. We can never forget them.
John,
we not ignore them.
Dennis?
I mean, to some extent, he has a point there, but again, it goes down to, you know, he's calling names. I don't like to call names because fundamentally, you know, what has changed? Yes, multi-party democracy. You know, some may ask, you know, what good is it doing now? You know, what is it? What have we been able to do with it? You know, and again, these are all working, you know, it's a work in progress. We all continue to work hard and make sure that we succeed with what we're doing. But you know, the Liberia we all envision is just more than multi-party democracy. It's more than you know, people forming political parties just like you eating kaya.
Okay.
We need a little more than that.
Okay, let's have a little bit quick interaction here with our onliners here. This is a tweet coming from Mr. Ty Mustard Boy. He said, Professor, the progressive did not complete their mission. Their ideologies were good, but they betrayed the struggle.
That's so wrong. That's wrong. That's not correct. That's misleading.
How?
Part of it is misleading. I would say they did not complete their mission. But to say that the ideology that they betray the struggle, I think that's incorrect. That's unfair.
So if the mission is not completed, then where is the success? I will pull that around here. Let me give you a meaning to dance around here, and I'll go to Ja. And the more liberal on this network, let's see whether he's going to buy into the idea of Mr. Boy. Go ahead.
But here's the thing. Houses are not built in a day. They are built with time. The foundations have been laid, and we are on a path to building a stronger and better society, and a better democracy. Look what's been happening in our country over the last couple of years. Our democracy has been tested and tried. And every time it's tested and tried, our people come out stronger and better. We're getting there. It requires time. Our country was built on flawed principles, very, very shaky foundation. We got to stabilize the foundation, and then we'll become aspirational in moving our country forward. So we're getting there little by little.
We are getting there. This trumpet here will be hearing it. Dennis, Mr. Ja?
Yeah, and you look at the other comment you have there, because we are trying to look at, you know, the whole idea of progressive. We're trying to pick people, oh, this person, that person, this person. But it's an ideology. The people that are saying, oh, progressive, are you saying that the whole concept of progressivism, that's wrong? Is there anything wrong with it? Or you are saying the people that were part of it, they were not perfect, they have mistakes? Of course they do. Of course they made mistakes. Of course we make mistakes today. So I don't see where this is going, you know, like people, and again, we don't look at history correctly and think that the progressive cause 1980 coup, or progressive cause the Civil War, and all those kind of things, which I think this mindset, like the comment you have there, is, you know, ill-informed, that progressive, because somebody have a political party and they have their view, is that why other people are going to go kill people? And you say that's the reason? So I don't know where people trying to go with this whole progressive idea, and as if Tipota is supposed to be progressive until he die, but we that are here today strong, we shouldn't do anything. We should just sit by and blame Tipota 40 years ago, or blame Bagos Mafia, who is dead, and say, oh, they did us wrong. What are we doing today? What are we listening to? What is it that is driving the discussion today? People, we look at what's going on. Take Liberia today, Liberia, for example. We see that our economy is bad off, okay? We see that political parties and even people are voting people into power that are inept. When people in, say, the House of Representatives or the senators, and we know some of them are making very bad decisions, but they don't pay any price. Nobody vote them out of office. We praise our little devils and look at the other person as being the worst. These are the issues that we are confronted with today. Why worry about, you know, what the progressive did 79?
Let's tie ourselves to this whole thing here. I think Pa Joy wants to respond. Yeah. The liberal there is already tied.
But so, you know, the progressive argument, progressive did this or that, I think is worn out. It's a tired argument. We need to really get involved, because all of us are progressive. We want to see progressive ideas taking place. We want to see free and fair election. We want to see a free press, a transparent society, an enabling society where our children can grow up.
So then, Mr. Ja, is it in the interpretation type progressive, how other people view it, how they see it to be? Are they taking the holistic approach, or is there some sort of selective method being used? Because from what I'm seeing, our onliners, and we respect their views, they are not insulting, they are all just speaking. This is what Sekou Dukle is saying. He said the progressive were the one who created the chaos In Liberia, they manipulated the PRC regime and led to the death of the 13 men. Is that a fair argument? Yeah.
So let me put a little context on this here. Perhaps the listener will those of us that are from the countryside maybe will understand. When I was growing up in Town, people will come to they will bring you to Town if you didn't pay your house tax for $10, and they will put stake on your foot and make you kneel down on rocks and look up in the sky, look up in the sun
for what?
hours and hours until somebody paid that $10 for you. Those things are not happening anymore because of the progressive. The progressive, if you whoever you want to name progressive, it's an idea. But those who were carrying out the idea, who believe in the idea, were educating Liberians. I don't care what form. Now, it is difficult for me to sit here to say, oh, somebody, I feel bad when somebody died. And if the coup happened or people die, I feel bad about it. Many of us got hurt during the PRC issue, but that's life. In revolution, people will die for other people to enjoy. And we have to understand that.
And that was Gaddafi said, there's no successful revolution without bloodshed.
Exactly.
Revolution
so
for
us to sit here and blame these young people, there are some progressive here in the United States as we speak that have kids, and their kids are nowhere to be right now. Because why? They used to go from state to state to state just so that they would have some sort of a unity among themselves and be able to carry a one voice, to have this, your ULA and whatever. That's how this whole thing comes about. By these young Liberians sacrificing their family just so that they will be able to have something for Liberians to count on. So for us to sit here to start blaming like the progressives and things, I think that's pure foolishness. If I may say so. Look at the 70. You saw Dr. Tipote. He has a slippers made out of tires, and he called it Tipote. We wore them. Many of us wore those things. Now, if that idea was to hold on for Liberian to say we're going to do this and use it, they can save money out of that thing. Those are ideas people bring on. Don't sit here and think because the people are failing you, your leaders are failing you as it is. Now you want to go back and say you're blaming the progressive.
Okay, we are almost out of time. Let me go to Pajoy, go quickly.
Yeah.
Let me go to
As people have said, being progressive is an idea. And while we are sitting on a platform, what we discuss about government, way forward, those are all progressive ideas. But I don't want people to have the notion that the progressive did not make any mistakes. No, there were flaws around the way. And this idea, people seeing that some progressive contributed towards the war. If you go to the PRC tip, they are there. I don't want to call names, but there are people who even today who went to Freetown, progressive, who went to Freetown, crossed the border into Liberia. The TRC, go. The names are there.
Mr. Josh, the war in Liberia started in 1847. It started in 1847. The war in Liberia was started by people who built that country.
Professor Zawu, we all knew prior to the coup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indigenous were being marginalized from the day of Liberia. Was being marginalized. But nobody should to say that progressive did not contribute to the war in Liberia.
Okay,
they are evidence until
let's
you know exactly what I'm talking about. Name was mentioned there, and they were in government again.
Okay, Pajoy, 1 minute ago, let's return to base here. Maybe we're going to find a forum and draw the progressive soccer squad and the non-progressive and see it and bring that line of demarcation. But let me talk to Mr. Jai here quickly here before we sign up for this evening here. I think it's a fascinating conversation. Mr. Jai, I think this is a post in 2019 here. I'm not sure you still stand by it, knowing what you know and the significant involvement of the society. Making politicians and political activities the law and gospel of our lives. Knowing what we know now, do you still, is that what's still happening from the
Definitely. Because what is it that we are glamorizing in Liberia? Politicians, politics, right? So we make them the law of our lives. We always, and there was a comment there that somebody said, "Oh, Mr. Dennis, where are you going? Because everybody needs savior." You know, so we sit there, wear sackcloth, look so despondent and waiting for somebody to save us. Oh, who will deliver? No. So we ourselves, I went to Liberia 2017. That was my first time in Liberia after 21 years outside. And I saw these people. I mean, people are in the street dancing as if this politician that they are electing is going to change anything about their lives. During the just ended election, I watched footages in my county sign-up. And the people are walking from village to village, dancing, trying to put someone in power. And they have done that over and over, and nothing about their life has ever changed. When will be the time that we will glamorize or that will promote someone who is a chemist like Dr. Saki Golafale? We will promote someone who is a finance guy, who speak and talk money. When are we going to promote and hail Dr. Patricia Wesley for being a Liberian renowned poet, so that these other areas can become attractive? But we ourselves create our little God, set them up above ourselves, begin to worship, and then if that little God start demanding for our children, then we start crying. But so yes, we still do that, and that's sad.
But Dennis, I think you're being a little bit unfair to the people. I think to suggest who the people should be glamorized is unfair. I think people have the stage to sell themselves, so that people will gravitate towards them. And some maybe if we are not doing that, then we hold ourselves responsible.
No, I think you misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying when Patricia Wesley run for office. I'm saying we should look at other areas in our society and be able to promote those areas, not just politicians.
But those areas must.
But let me ask the professor. Professor, when will you come in to educate your people if they continue to put people in position that are not useful, that are not helping them over and over? When will you come to try to educate them?
That's not my point. My point is not when will we do that. That's not the point. My point is that, look, in order for us to be able to sell and promote other aspects of our national existence, our heritage and the rest of it, those of us in those areas, or the people in those areas, have to do more. And I don't think we are doing more. You know, I had a discussion with Fasiki Kane about getting Liberian literature in schools in Liberia. And, I don't want to change the whole discussion, but there are tons of issues there. For example, those who are writing the literature haven't considered. So it presents hurdles to having their work being pushed forward into schools. So there are a lot of things that we too got to do. We cannot. The people are looking at it. I mean, I understand the whole concept of I never had a savior, and I don't see anybody as a savior. But here's the thing: in a situation like the situation we have in our country and many other countries like that, where people have all this despair, people tend to look for a savior. That's why people go to church. We're not questioning why people hold on to Jesus Christ to be their savior when Jesus is there and you see a young baby dying for no reason.
But Jesus Christ would not appear in that church. So it's just people believe in something.
What I'm saying. But people tend to look for savior. People look for Jesus. People look for
what Daniel is saying. Let me just what Daniel is saying. Go ahead.
No, but that's what I'm just saying. So I think it's unfair.
What is saying is true. The situation in our country has always been people have created a situation that others must look up to them. That has been, it continues to be. And so what is because if the situation is red, That is, everybody get piece of the pie. The education is there. People will be able to sit down and think independently. But those conditions and avenues have not been created.
Let me say this. That's what Dennis Jai has done. Dennis Jai has done something in that direction.
Hold on now.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's what we all got to do. Dennis Jai has written a book on civics.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. And that's what Dennis is saying. Because
Dennis is saying that. But what I'm saying, equally so, Dennis has done that. Many of us haven't done that. I'm saying this is a work that should be responsible for all of us.
And that's why I said from the very beginning that we don't want to put in that amount of work. And to that civil book you're talking about, when I wrote it, I went to Monrovia to promote that and make MCSS or the Ministry of Education to at least teach that. Nobody even want to listen, but that's another story. But yes, it's true that we need some work needs to be done, by ourselves, the professionals, to make sure that our area become attractive. Because the guys that are politicians, most of them have no skills, right? So the only thing they have is to talk. So they're not going to make teaching attractive because they want teachers to go to them. Because if you, see the people that we are promoting today, nothing against them. They have their skill of talking to convince people. But if you listen to some of them for the next 20 years, nothing is going to change about your life. And we as people,
they are not creating condition to help those folks.
Yeah,
they are self-centered. They are not creating conditions. That's why they have been
because if they create those conditions, those people will not look up to them.
Okay,
when you and Mr. George say that, I feel you later because you got one of them right in your backyard. I think you know it better than us.
Who?
You.
Are you talking about me?
You and Mr. George and Mr. Jab, you have one in your backyard. So I think you know it better than us. One of those people, if we listen for the next 100 years, the lives of the world will be changed.
I think we're going to find a new. We have to find that.
Professor, another friend, Mike wrote a literature on policing. The role of a police officer. He took the literature to Monrovia, to the Ministry of Education. The same story Daniel Jai is talking.
Okay, so guys, let's do that before we go. We're almost 10 here. Let's give Mr. Jazz. Dennis, how long do you intend to stay in this business with this focus on Liberia network? It is informative, complete civility on that network. I monitor sometimes when I be there live, based sometimes on my location, but I always go back and watch. And the manner, in the context in which you hold your guests accountable to what they say, but it's being done in the respect. But here is the challenge with all of us, and you put that into context with the proliferations of all of these networks and things that Liberian law to dive in. Our viewers, our listeners, but it should be our right conscience in making sure the right conversation is kept in a proportion of action. So we don't necessarily go to please our viewers. Okay, this is what I want this guy to say to come in. And that's the challenge. And most of them, the sort of soundbite, they kind of like buy into, let me kind of cut the hair out of the president, then I will, I will be a mild, I will be listening to, or let me go to with the opposition, I will be listening to. That's not what we do. And that's not what you do. How long, considering all of these components that factor into this narrative, how long do you intend to stay in this?
Until my last breath, Mr. So. And this is what really I believe. That's why it's very important to know what is your core. What is it that if everything else goes away from you that you want to hold on to? And plans are on the way that first of all, we want all this network to join us to build what many are now referring to as the Liberia CNN. Because and I saw this idea to even other people that have their other platforms and say, hey, why don't we put all this together? I mean, we got 7 days in a week, 24 hours. You have your show, come and you are doing this maybe Monday, come on FOL and we give you a platform and you share it, right? Let's put all this together, and plans are on the way now. Right now we are, and I'm going to meet with my board of advisors. We want to take on a project of 35,000 project to create a robust online presence that's going to blow you away, and it's going to solve some of the problems, some of the things that we are talking about today. Okay, I give you an example. Let's say you want to your brother call you from Liberia and say, well, I'm going to school and my tuition is this. You send them the money to do something else. Can we create a system, an online system that I can pay directly to JF to University of Liberia?
Yeah.
So we are planning on creating a robust, because focus, what you see us do here should just be the face. But we are in the process of putting actual boots on the ground and to change the things. See all the Liberian professionals. I mean, I'm blown away every day I talk to, and people are calling us to say, we want to appear. I mean, all aspect of life, policy, agriculture, policing, everywhere. Liberians have professionals, I mean, seasoned professionals.
And we need to tap into them.
What we try to do here is to harness those resources. Right now, if you are looking for a chemistry teacher or a chemist or someone with where do you go? Where do you find that Liberian? Focus on Liberia want to be the hub to harness. I mean, Liberia got, who thought that the Brokoto man from Town Town, seasoned engineer? But how many people can come to him now and say, I want to go to engineering school? What's your advice? What do I learn? So we want to do more. So the first step here is we are going to raise money. We see people do GoFundMe for foolishness.
Crazy thing. It's just
right, but I don't blame them. They are good. To what extent can we sell what we want to do so that people buy into it? That's the challenge. So when I go to bed, that's what I try to think about. I watch one guy, the man will cost from the beginning of the show to the end, right? And 3,000 people watching. I went to watch and say, what is it that he's doing? What of everything negative around what he's doing, what can I pick up? So that Focus on Liberia can have 4,000 people whose minds will be transformed from watching the show. And so these are the challenges. That's why when I go to bed, I'm supposed to be a big man, but these are the things I think about, and I don't get anybody.
That's a you made my day here. And that's why, like somebody was tweeting, they say, oh, this is the professor from Kakata. And sometimes we see people come here, but because of political correctness, the man looking for a job, the man doing this, okay, what's wrong with being a sedition? This is but something that you believe. This is a guy who is running. He's not a guy who he behaves like something total. I don't know. No, something is too liberal for him. He's too liberal, even though they have that sort of.
Well, we take something to the fact studio. We become facts analysts. We'll create our fact network.
This is Professor Zawo. You know better than that. Running institutions, discipline institutions. During the election, he left from here to go help the teachers, to train them, to prepare our young generation for WIAC. And you have some people coming on the network without even getting a clue who this person is, and things just come from out of their mouth. Boom, is like, oh my goodness. But we allow people, the good thing, the tolerance that is being exercised on this network with our contributors and stuff is good. But what you say, I think is good, and we will support that, because you know what? I got a message, people look up, Mr. Manager, yes, good. I want you to help me. I say, to do what? Your school fee. I said, which school do you go to? You said cathedral. So I said, okay, then what's the problem? I'm supposed to be graduating and I don't have money to pay for my GAN fee. I say, are you sure? He said, yeah. Are you sure? Yes, you're telling me the truth. Yeah. I said, okay. How much is it? Got a fee. I say, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. We have our management team on the ground. Sometimes we try to help. Give me your name. I'm not sure whether that's the right name. Give me your name and I will send my staff in Liberia to go pay. And guess what? I don't like people to go to my school. I like, what? I don't like people to go to my school. So, all right, if you're sure you're graduating, I will know. Because not just people going, I will make sure, I want to make sure that is paid. I'm not saying you're lying, but that's the system. So they try to tweet or try to twist our way of doing things to satisfy their own desire because they want you to be in their direction. So the dishonesty in the society is not only in government, it's not only in the opposition. It's with the ordinary citizen, and they are breastfeeding it on a daily basis, and that's how it has become like a cancer in the throat of our folk. Well, guys, it's almost 10 o'clock here. We will be coming off of a special program in the next coming days and week. We're going to be on here every Saturday because I think we need to communicate directly with our people in Liberia to catch up with them with the time zone. And people got to be very careful what they listen to because it does have a propensity to manipulate your mind. And I see this is where the problem coming from because when you listen to it, you process it and you eventually act on those things that you listen to. And what you said, it makes sense. But no way, I'm not going to pick up my pants. I'm not going to scratch my head to cause the hair out of the president or opposition, but I can hold them accountable in the honest fashion by giving them the opportunity to also expand like what we did in the case of Bernie Sanders. Mr. Dennis Jart, I want to thank you so much for your time here. And like you said, yeah, we will talk to our board. This is our board member here. This liberal guy here. Liberal something to I get to deal with him nightly morning busy. You won't believe after the program he will call me to ask how did he do. And I will tell you don't do nothing. Thing is not doing anything. But we're looking forward for us sharing information here because pretty well we are on course in terms of our talking point and things that you are doing. We highly admire that. Professor, what's the last word? Then I will guess to wrap it up.
You know, my last word again. Thank you very much, Dennis. It's always a pleasure engaging you. You know, Mr. So you made a point, and I just want to touch on it a little bit because you see, we always got when we get the bad, we criticize the bad. When we get the good, we to praise the good. Look, every time I come on this show, every 2 or 3 persons who come and cast aspersions on me, I get about 10 to 15 call-ups or email messages encouraging me to do the things that I do. So equally, you know, with those insults, I received my own share of praises. So thank you very much for giving the opportunity to always come here and share. Look, you know, we're not into this thing for job. I hired 35 persons in Liberia. I can boastfully say I don't pay them minimum wage in Liberia. I pay them livable wage. My teachers in Kakata are the best paid outside of BWI. So, you know, we'll continue to do what we do. And you know, I just want to encourage, you know, the kind of conversations we had here today that will continue. Dennis has some very good perspective. I think we share some of those perspectives. We share most of the perspectives. And let's continue to push and build a better country, a better Liberia. That's why we're going to retire. And what we do now to decide on the kind of quality of life we'll have when we retire in Liberia. Thank you.
Okay, Pa Joyce, 1 minute quickly before I go to the Liberal, and then Mr. Jar will close tonight. See the you offer us.
Let me say thank you, Dennis. I mean, he's a wonderful person. I met him. The gentleman is very calm, cool, and collective. Even with all at the time what we're going through, you know us they didn't want to say something to anybody harshly. He just quiet and look and be laughing. So and what he's doing today is exactly what we need. These are the things we need. We need to come here and share this information. Yes, we can have some disagreement, but we must stand and come together to move the country forward. I may disagree with some people some days, but it doesn't mean that we cannot sit down and find a common ground. And that's what I think we Liberians should start to champion. Because if we don't do that, the people that we want to help will end up harming them.
Okay.
So much. And Mr. Labor, yesterday you took up time. Labor, you took up time to defend your ex-minister, but you and I are going to talk that.
Oh my goodness. We are going to end on a rough neck anyhow. The Liberal Progressive.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So this is what we do here on Liberal Public Radio. we're gonna iron things, but that's fine. Mr. Jai, I also want to thank you very much for coming on Liberal Public Radio. You continue to inspire all of us, and we appreciate as young as you are, but your mindset, I believe, is way ahead of your age. Let's put it that way, and which we appreciate to have a young Liberian to be able to express himself freely and encourage other people to do what is good for the people, I think it's something that we all need to gravitate towards. I remember having you and we adore here on La Public Radio when we have the debate. We wanted to be the secretary. It was a very and we still have the audio for that, by the way.
Okay, so, please share that with me.
Don't be surprised that we'll bring that up. But I want to thank you very much. Well, that last thing I want to say here, Mr. So, is that those of us that are in these things, folks, it's good when you come to these kind of platform to listen or something like that. We're not saying something that perhaps trying to convince you to follow us. It's not that. But in this particular situation, history is very good. When people make reference to history, try and look at it, because history is a guide to the future. Just simple as that. Because if you don't go back to see what the mistakes were, you will continue to repeat the same mistake and in detriment to your country in this case. So when Mr. Yar comes out and puts some pamphlet or book or whatever it is, put it together, let us all try to read what he's saying. And then in that book, you will go in there and he will make reference to other book. And you can also, and then just keep going back. Before you look, you have a whole wealth of knowledge. That's
okay.
education. You learn. You're not too old. Finally, Mr. So, tomorrow, I'm having Mr. Victor B. Smith, former IT Minister of Public Works.
Oh, my God.
President of the Liberian Engineers Society in Liberia will be my guest tomorrow.
Why you kept going on with this Victor Smith? Why can't you turn this Victor Smith over to me? Let me ask him his blueprint that he left by the Ministry of Public Works. This is okay. Let's leave that here. Let me go to Mr. Ja. Mr. Ja.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr.
What do you want us to take away here, Ty, from tonight's conversation?
Good, thank you. And first of all, the way we do things in Liberia, I started by saying, we always focus on the who and not the what. Let us be able to kind of analyze and see what the issues are, because we need to find the root cause of whatever problem we face so that we find a solution and not always address the symptoms of the problem. Two, whatever we organize, whatever we start, let's first define the purpose. Let's say you are starting a church. What is the reason for which you are organizing a church? Or you are starting a political party? What is the reason? If you look at the reason and you say, okay, what ways can I achieve the reason or the purpose? If there are other alternate ways that are cost effective, you do that. Right? Instead of starting a new church without purpose. But most of the time, we find the political leader even before we find the ideology of the party. So we always put in the cart before the horse. The third thing I want Liberians to know is how we should always recognize how things are connected. Take, for instance, the body, and you are taking pills, right? Make sure that one pill you're taking, you should bear in mind that there is another pill that you're supposed to take, right? So if the both of them are reacting, don't take it, right? So we should always be aware, but in Liberia, we always do things in silos as if our action here does not affect our action there. What I mean is we should always see how this is a mosaic, how everything is connected. So when you are applying solution this place, be aware of the impact or the collateral damage or the consequence that it's going to have on the other side, so that we all work together to achieve that. Here at Focus on Liberia, we always say we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. So look at the diversity of programs that we have. Some may ask, there is some way I say, oh, which side you're on? Look at our videos and see which side they're on. Just before, we were talking about land issues in Liberia, the whole land ownership. Which side is that one on? There is the whole of February, we delve into Liberian history. Which side is that, for opposition or pro-government? We are now planning to do, we call that Liberia Reimagine. The basis of that is, if you were to have the Liberia we all envisage, what are those imperatives that are needed? And we're going to have a month of show like that.
Okay.
We also have the literary hour where we teach literature. We have chemistry and society. We have all these things. And then another one we're going to have is this I remember. We want to call someone like Mr. Samson Toe. What do you remember about growing up in Town?
Oh my
So
God.
has to have that remembrance. So all these things we put
Make
together,
sure
at the core is we
sure
want
you
to
take your
educate,
dinner.
elevate, and promote all things Liberia.
Make sure you take your dinner with you in studio when you call in something to give the historical context of Totan. That I guarantee. Get your coffee cup, everything.
No,
Well,
Samson
gentlemen,
Toe has been here before. In fact, he has co-hosted a show with me.
okay, all right. That's the liberal. Okay, well, gentlemen, I want to thank you.
Mr. Soul, I want to correct a few things because it's coming from someone who too has a platform, right? There's a comment here from Lofa Julius. He said, Dennis Ja, are you allowing other people to speak freely when they appear on FOL? Then he continued to say, the last time you wanted me to speak crew or gribble. I mean, I brought this up to see how our society is, right? He appeared, and people don't give examples, and we saw that when people say, oh, the progressive did, nobody could give you an example, right? The same thing, he said he appeared on everywhere, he did not speak freely. I think 3 of you besides Mr. George has appeared on FOL, and Mr. George are calling several times. Did you not speak freely? And then he said, I asked him to speak group. I don't know whether he's joking or not, but this is the kind of Liberia we have now. People just talk.
Okay, well, that's quite okay. Well, gentlemen, folks, as usual, I want to thank you so much. Professor, you want to say something?
No, I said maybe when I went there, I spoke crew.
Well, when I come, I was prepared as some ambassador. So
I should
a little bit crying.
Okay, guys.
Because as a son of a crew woman, I should be speaking crew, but unfortunately, I can't.
Gentlemen, we're going to cut the deal for the night. I want to thank you so much for your time here, and I'm looking forward to having you during the course of the week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, folks, that does it this evening. Our special guest is one of the founders of Focus on Liberia. I am Afonso Zian, so right here at the New England Bureau. What a hectic day today. In the first segment this afternoon, a spokesperson of Brandon Tai Samuka, we now know that there is an official letter from the former president asking his Samuka to pay that money, and that there were 2 meetings held, one at the residence of the former president Helen Johnson Sirleaf, and then the last meeting at the residence with President George Weah. So we are hoping to receive that letter. That's what we know so far. So good. And he's also made it clear here this evening that as of today is already a new day in Liberia. As of Tuesday, there will be some unspecified consequences. We do not know the interpretations. We're asking. He remains tight-lipped on that. But we hope the best will be done. Folks, if you're your first time, Lofa Julius, thank you for chipping in here. Emin and Elliot and all of you folks, if they're your first time stopping by, of course, our prime-time valuable listener to Mikey Temano. The only difference I have with him is he's in ties with the liberal. It's a little bit painful. James David, always here. To Heavenly Son, we want to welcome you. We want to thank you to Rhonda Free. Is it my own booty to Rhonda Free from Minneapolis? Hopefully. I thank you to Benson and all of you, our onliners participating, tweeting, Finland Son and Mr. Ty Boyd, Moston Boyd. Thank you for your participation. Just subscribe to Liberia Public Radio LPR TV. We have a YouTube channel as well. It is important that we follow closely what is unfolding in our country, to what we listen to, what we take in. It does have a propensity to degenerate our country into chaos. The oppositions, the government, and those who even want to take power, we must have an honest conversation about the future of our country. What you do today, it will come back at you because it's working in your favor. And who told you that someone else can do it? No one has monopoly over violence. We saw that before. We went down this path before. So if the opposition or people that are speaking for the opposition can now begin to put up alternative plan, if they feel that this government is not doing in as much this government, there are thousands and major policies differences. We are also counting on the opposition at this point in time to begin to have a genuine conversation about the future and as to how they can drive this country, how they can change it. Just don't just only tell me about the problem and you cannot put forward solutions. You do not have a strategic plan as to how you can make a difference. There is no difference. If you cannot tell me how you're going to downsize government, then to double the size of government, as in the case when the CDC came, then that's a problem. If you are opposition and when we are warning that the proliferations of militias, even within the ruling establishment, and you are doing the same thing, then that's a problem. We have a newborn party, Liberation Party of Dr. Cassette, and I saw guys marching in their khaki red barrel. That's not my favorite because that's just a flashback. Those were the things our youth wore during the civil crisis, and that trauma is still in place. Nothing much is being done. So these politicians are using the young generations of our youth to stand in a gap for their own political purposes. Until that can be undone, until we can speak to that, until you who believes in your party, your political leader, or whatever you have, to stand up to the task and look in their faces and tell them, yes, I support you, but this policy, this idea does not work in the interest of my country. How many of us have the guts to do that? These are the challenges that we are making. All we are hearing the opposition, the government is all about political correctness, blame game. They did it yesterday. Why can't we do it now? It is a wrong concept. It is a wrong theory, and it is not leading our country anywhere. Well, before we let you go, earlier this evening here, we're bringing you news. We are now getting more details according to France 24 from the West Central African Republic of Equatorial Guinea. At least 20 persons have now been reportedly killed and hundreds taken to hospital. Now we know that this explosion, as it was accidental, it ripped through the military camp in Equatorial Guinea. The president spoke to the nations according to France 29, and that was part of folks within the cities of Betat during the warranted burning of Bush, and that where that explosion took place. 20 reportedly dead and 100 been taken to hospital. Our prayers and thought goes out to the people of Equatorial Guinea during this time of calamity. Until then, I'm Alfonso Zayansot of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR TV. Thank you for sharing your evening, your thought, your suggestions. Leave your comment. Again, our field is open to analysts, contributor. We want women as well, but we have put this out over and over, and we don't have to force people, but we'll continue to echo that. We want contributors, we want analysts to be here, but please, we are not CNN or Fox News. We are not paying them. These people are giving back to the community. Thank you so much, and have a pleasant evening. Please remember that the virus is still around. Observe all protocols. All right, observe the health protocols. There are so many protocols all around here, but observe the health protocols to save your life, that of your friend, and to your family. Until then, I'm Alfonso Zayan, so have a pleasant weekend. Thank you for sharing your evening with us. Bye-bye.
You are a winner. I am a winner. Winner. You are a winner. Someone when you do this, you are killing from my town. But understand that I am more than the conqueror. I am untouchable. I am unreprovable. I am unshakable and undefeatable. Are you ready to declare it? Are you ready to go? To the right, to the left, to the right, to the front.
All right, all right. Oh yeah. That's Liberian gospel artist, Minister Ibrahim Tapper, we're going to be having here. Okay, Patrick, thank you for that information. We are open to, as long they are willing to appear. We are not limited, we are not restrictive to anybody. As long as you are willing to answer some tough questions, we'll bring you here. If you can send the person to info.mdrleader on the Samuka Saka. That will be, as long as they are willing, you can get me through the LIB Messenger or my personal Facebook page. Alfonso Z and so if you have information or contact, and once the person is willing to believe me or not, we're going to bring them here. Folks, have a pleasant event. Bye-bye.